What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daley Move Podcast. Must be Tuesday night because we got a loaded show coming for you. As always, Coach Daley here, joined by my main man, Coach Steve Move Scanlon. We got some big news on the horizon. Coach, we got picked up, man. We can't get into it too much yet. Can't get into it. We're going to drop it probably next week, but things are looking up for this podcast. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, it's just nice to hear your name called, waiting in that green room, wondering if you're going to be undrafted or not. It's good to finally get that call, Coach.
Yeah, we finally got drafted. We're going to be here for a while. I'm excited. You guys might have seen on our Instagram, if you follow us, you might have seen us sharing some stuff here, but big news coming here. But we want to do it right. We want to make sure that when we do the release of our newest sponsor, everybody's going to be able to join in the fun, and we're going to have some promos, some giveaways and stuff like that. That's why we're kind of holding on to it. Let me share. I don't know. Let me share this on Facebook here to make sure we're live and everybody knows that we're live. Like I said, we got a loaded show tonight. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through it all, Coach, honestly, but hey, Mother's Day coming up this weekend. What do you got on the horizon over there down the shore? Because I know you like to you got Bay Fest, you got Ocean City Fest, you got other kind of fest. What kind of fest is coming up this weekend, Coach?
Well, on Saturday there's the Ventnor block party. That should be pretty cool too. But then Mother's Day itself, heading down to Sea Isle. Got some family in town. Going to go for a brunch. So that should be an awesome day as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy early Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. And if you got something going on, make sure you have fun and be safe. And if you're not able to get out there and do something on Monday, make sure you're taking care of your mother on Saturday or Friday, or making sure that they know that they're appreciated. We appreciate all the mothers who listen on this show, and our wives and everybody included. But looking forward to getting into it tonight. We got, like I said, big news on the horizon. We're going to share some of that next week. We got tonight. We're going to launch this. We're going to drop this episode tomorrow. We got our No Huddle episode on Thursday. And we got our South Jersey Spotlight episode on Friday, which we're going to highlight the players to watch from the National Division and from the Royal Division. So make sure you check in on Friday for the South Jersey Spotlight. Awesome show yesterday that dropped on our Coach's Corner. I hope you guys enjoyed that too. So we got another episode coming up there this coming week. We'll talk about that on Thursday. I'll let you guys know who the guest for this coming week will be on Monday. But we're going to get right into it here. We're not going to waste any time. We got a lot of hot topics to talk about here tonight. And as always, we started off with our Look Good, Feel Good, Play Good segment. And, Coach, it never fails. Just like our Look Good, Feel Good, Play Good segment, you're always providing some fancy-looking cleats. Talk to us about these I don't even know what these are called, man. Just give the folks a little bit of detail about what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so this is an Adidas lineup. Then we got one in white, if you're not watching, with gold triple stripes, one in a lime green with black stripes, and then one in black with gold stripes as well. Just got some really good artwork and looks like money, man. Look good, play good. Look good, feel good, play good. I think it's really creative and, again, highlights Adidas kind of making some major moves lately in the footwear game, and especially in the cleats. So I just think they look pretty cool. I could see, some of my nephews or younger cousins or family friends wearing these things. I think they look awesome.
Coach, do you like have you ever worn his jerseys or no? Or have you ever coached with them or no?
We did. So when I was in college, I think it was my last season, we were actually in Adidas school. So got all sets of uniforms.
I like the Adidas stuff, dude.
Yeah,
like
it's a good
Adidas
quality.
stuff.
I'll tell you what else. My second favorite pair of cleats I ever wore were given to me by a teammate in camp. I think I had a rip in one of mine, just put them on and loved them. He let me keep them. But they were Adidas cleats as well. They look like the Reggie Bush all black from his college days. They were very similar to that.
Yeah, that's sick. All right, we're moving on to the next slide here. Talk about classic look. You used to wear just the black classic cleats here, Coach. It's kind of like what we're looking at here, but it got a little flair to it. Talk to us about these classic looking black Nikes that you got on the screen.
Yeah, these are called the Alpha Elite, and they're covered in that fly knit material. So like, Coach, you mentioned before, wanting really light footwear, help you run faster, get that 10th down, one more 10th in the 40-yard dash time, right? You can tuck and run down the sideline. These were prepared to do that. I just think it's a really cool look, has a neat sheen. That fly knit makes it look unique with the waves. Thought it looked awesome and had to put it in the lineup for us.
What was that classic Nike cleat that everybody used to wear when, when we were back playing? It was just a black Nike, and it had that one little racing stripe going up the side with the Nike swoosh. It was low top, Coach. Everybody loved them. What was that called again?
Yeah, I remember the Nike Vapors. They were the Mike Vick ones. And before that, when we were real young, Coach, the Nike Sharks. I feel like everybody
the Sharks, I think the Sharks are still around. The Sharks used to be like the bargain buy, dude. But now everything coming back, everything coming back, what's old is new again. Like, not for nothing, but like my daughter just bought a pair of like Dad New Balance looking shoes, and they're like $85, bro, because they're back in style, I guess. Coach, I was like, dude,
showing my age, I don't get the New Balance, but kids love it. So if you like it, that's what's most important.
I had to wear the New Balance in college because my feet were so wide, so they had to be a New Balance cleats. So they were comfortable though. But hey, we're moving on to a couple look good, feel good, play good jerseys, and this is a uniform combination, just a solid combo that I really liked. It's from Liberty University, maybe with the skyline of Lynchburg in the back with the sun setting, but you can see here just a really classic navy on white look with the tight, I guess it's a tight end there holding the American flag. Just a really solid looking picture. And Liberty released their uniforms for 2026 season. And you talk about another school that's got friggin' 20 different uniform combinations. Liberty's one of them. They got the sky blue, they got the navy blue. Just thought this was a really sharp looking, classic looking uniform set. And you got to love the American flag and the sunset in the background there. So beautiful down there in Lynchburg. If you've never been down there, make sure you get down there. It's gorgeous stadium and just a gorgeous city, man.
Coach, I like how teams are starting to upload their uniforms for the upcoming season. Spring ball is done. NFL draft is done, right? People are starting to chomp at the bit for some football, and these are some good previews.
Well, you talk about it, and like you have to. I feel like you have to anymore, Coach. Like you got to. This is what drives kids. And I was having this conversation with a couple coaches in the building the other day, and we're off topic now from the look good, feel good segment. That's okay. We'll come back to it. But like, dude, you gotta keep it interesting, man. And this is what your players love. And if you're not, if you're not going to be about what the players love, then what are you about? What you love? Because that's not going to work. So
no, it's not.
Looking here at the Tennessee Titans, you talk about their new uniforms for the season. You got a nice little picture of Cam Ward there, QB1. They're going back to their old Houston Oilers kind of set there. They got a nice baby blue with the red trim, the white numbers, man. But those helmets are really sharp, and I know it's tough to tell if you're watching live, but really cool logo there and just a really sharp-looking uniform. And I like the fact that a lot of these NFL teams are kind of going back to their old school roots. Like you're an Eagles fan. Like, would you enjoy if the Eagles went back to Kelly Green full time?
No, but I think they use it. I'm an outsider on that. I'm in the minority. I think if you polled 100 Birds fans, 98 of them will tell you they want Kelly Green full time. I love how they use it now as like an accent. I also think too, Coach, that era, like they didn't win. You know what I mean? So I don't want to go to an era to remember when they weren't as successful as they've certainly been more recently. So, but I do like it. It's got a great touch. It really looks classic and timeless the way that they're using it. And like we mentioned before, good on the NFL for figuring out we can make more money by doing this and make people happy. And ultimately, Coach, look good, feel good, play good is about making players happy and having fun around the game. So we want to say thank you specifically to Twinning Tees, right? Celebrating all life's moments, little and big, custom-made clothing, screen print, transfers, embroidery, anything that you guys need. Check them out.
Check them out. Twinning Tees, always making us look good, feel good, play. We appreciate you guys over there. We're moving on here to our What's Going On segment, Coach. We got a lot to cover. To cover. There's a lot of news this week, and sometimes we're sitting here and we film this obviously on Tuesday nights, and we sit here on Wednesday and we're like, hey, we don't have any topics yet. We got to get some topics. And then all of a sudden Thursday already comes and it's just a bombardment. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and huge news coming out of Texas Tech here. And, we talk about you talk about having a gambling problem. Brendan Sorsby went to rehab for gambling addiction. I'm going to let you kind of take over here, and we got some stuff to talk about on this topic here, but tell us about exactly what the details are and and how much we're talking about possibly and what the ramifications are going to be for this young man and possibly the Texas Tech program.
Yeah, you just hate to see this. And as gambling has become more streamlined with sports product and messaging, this is something, Coach, you probably remember from our days of playing college football. You have to sign those waivers in the beginning of the year at camp every year talking about do's and don'ts of the NCAA. I'll tell you one that I remember very explicitly, and it was you couldn't gamble, right? You couldn't be gambling. And now that it's illegal,
you couldn't even play fantasy football, Coach.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to fill out a March Madness bracket. Now, the degree of what maybe we did or did not do is different. But looking at this with it becoming legal, so Brendan Sorsby is a guy that was probably projected to be a second to third round pick if he came out this year. But as we know, if you're not in the first round, it's financially more worthwhile to stay one more year in college and then hopefully play your way into a first round grade like Cam Ward did famously a couple years ago, right? He declares for the NFL draft. He ends up at Miami in the transfer portal, gets paid a ton of money while he's there for the one season. They lead the country in total offense and passing yards and every statistic you can think of. And then he comes out and he's a surefire number one overall pick. Well, Brendan Sorsby's done the same, and it's hard to track because through the transfer portal era, he was at Indiana before they were really good, and then he ends up at Cincinnati, and then he hits the portal, and there's no way to know this definitively, but it's expected that he signed somewhere between $5 to $6.5 million to go to Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech is spending that oil money, right? They got former players that have sold oil fields and are worth billions of dollars and are doing what you and I would do, right? And are funding their favorite program. So this is really kind of a terrible thing to hear. So like you said, he tried to get out in front of it. He checked himself into a rehab facility. He's also hired a really power attorney. Looks like he's going to fight this, but there's a lot of sides to this, Coach. And I don't know. It's tough on the coaches because now there's officially no spring portal. I guess you could get like an Ivy League graduate or something, but that's kind of slim pickings. There's also last year a player from Wisconsin just didn't enter the portal. He unenrolled at Wisconsin, enrolled in Miami, and he started in the national championship. So I'm curious to see if there's any fallout to that. But, you hate to see this and you think about his future as a player. And it's one of the things he did. He was betting on his team, but supposedly to win.
Yeah.
But he was also, like it says in some of the information, he's making, hundreds and hundreds of bets per day. So it's a tough spot.
Yeah, it's a really tough spot. It kind of reminds me a little bit about myself. No, I'm just kidding. Like this guy, dude, you talked about it though, and I think you just put the dagger in the coffin there. He was making bets on his own team. Now, all the reports I'm reading, it's when he wasn't actively participating in the game. Okay, so doesn't make it better. But I mean, you talk about Pete Rose. Look at Pete Rose. This is back in the 70s. He was betting on his team to win too. But man, it's such and it's so terrible for the kids, I think, and the players. And you mentioned earlier about how if you go to the draft and you're not even drafted in the first round, you're actually going to be losing money. Dude, we put such an emphasis on trying to regulate the gambling and trying to keep the integrity of the game. I think the integrity of the game was out the window a long time ago. All right, when it comes to things like this, don't sit here and talk to me. If you're the NCAA, don't sit here and try and talk to me about integrity because there is none. Okay, but you can't sit here and tell these guys that they can't gamble when your friggin' national championship game is sponsored by DraftKings or FanDuel, or you got Dave Portnoy and his sports book broadcasting outside of a stadium every Saturday afternoon. Like, how big of a double standard is like rules for thee, not for me, right? Yeah, and Coach, that's exactly what the NCAA is doing right now with this whole situation. I don't know what's going to happen with this kid. It sounds like he's going to have a really tough battle to ever come back and play college football. And I don't know how good he is to where, does this follow him? Is he, you got the Jim Harbaugh treatment where your sanctions are going to follow you to the NFL possibly? I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, Coach. It's funny you say that. One of the first articles I saw about this mentioned the information, and then the second paragraph immediately talked about the changing odds for Texas Tech to win the Big 12 championship. So like it
You
is
can't
very
you can't write it any better, Coach. We can't sit here and write the script for this show any better than some of these damn these NCAA writers or whatever it might be. It's just crazy to me.
yeah. My buddy was asking me,
you feel for the players.
Definitely. I hope he, I don't know if they make an example. I'd hate to see him lose the entire year for his sake. My buddy was asking him about the supplemental draft. So if you guys aren't aware, there's a supplemental draft for anybody who it used to be for guys who would fail out of school or get in trouble. But they would have it in August, I think, every year. And if you select a player, like you put in, say, Coach Daley is in the draft and I'm running a team and I think, is somebody going to draft him or not? But I'm going to put in the 4th round, even though maybe he's a 1st or 2nd round talent. Well, the following year, I forfeit my 4th round pick if it gets through and nobody else slotted you beforehand. I just think if without him going to the rehab, without him getting a chance to get on the field, like if I were him and I lost eligibility, I would be at a pre-draft facility training for the next 10 months to be the physically best shape that I can and try to rehab your image and get in front of it. But like you said, you hate to see it. Hopefully it shakes out as best as possible. But this is probably not the last time we see this.
No, I absolutely not, Coach. And, he's got an uphill battle, but, we hope for the best for his sake because, everybody else makes money off of this game. Why can't the players,
Speaking of which,
we're moving on. Yep, we're moving on. Speaking of which, great segue into the next topic. Scared money don't make money, Coach. Talk to me about what we're looking at right here, please.
Yeah, so it's side-by-side headlines. The one of them is from a report, NCAA Division I. University of Maryland is cutting 150 positions, right? They're passing funding on projects, meaning there's freezes for renovations, for athletic centers, for things around campus. And then yet athletic staff continue to be among the highest paid people in the state. And that's one of those things that's tough about these state institutions. You can look up exactly how much the football coach, the basketball coach is making. And it just, the headline kind of says like, what's it worth? Everybody talks about athletics as the front porch to a university, but if the foundation's crumbling, what good is a beautiful deck is kind of the point of this. Yeah. And then the counterpoint, Ross Dellinger is a great writer, national writer, primarily for college football, but he talks about in the same breath, the Big Ten, Maryland is a member of the Big Ten, is now had $1.37 billion that it paid out this year to its member schools, right? And we'll look at a couple of other headlines moving forward, but it was about $40 million more than even their best expectations. Like these schools are printing money. There's a famous article in New Jersey. It was kind of bashing Rutgers for trying to get into the Big Ten, and there's a $78 million shortfall. Guess what? They just cut the check and could pay it if they want to. I don't believe these schools with their accounting. You look at these charts here, Coach. You want to share some of that intel as well as we were just mentioning?
You sit here and look at it, and when you sent this to me the other day, Coach, my first question is: you got all this money coming in from TV, you have all this money coming in from everywhere else. Where is it going? Why is there a pause on construction at the university? Why is there jobs and administration being cut? Where's the deficit at when you have all this money coming in? And nobody really had a solid answer for that. But you can see here it says the Big Ten Conference made $490 million in new revenue by adding Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. All right, and then on the other chart here it says Big Ten schools payouts for the 2025 fiscal year have been announced, and they're even higher than predicted. SEC schools, Coach, and the SEC has been the mecca of college football for the better part of, 2 decades at least?
Last 20 years, last 20
Yeah, at least the SEC, is paying out $1.03 billion compared to the Big Ten, which, like you said, Maryland plays in the Big Ten.
Yep.
If you didn't know. $1.37 billion. The discrepancy is incredible here. And it's just like you hear about Maryland, like I said, how they're in flux and they're putting a pause on construction and they're cutting jobs and they're doing this. Where's it all going? And you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said, what good is build. What you said about the deck in the house, Coach? Like, it was just
So what, if athletics is the front porch of a university, what good is a beautiful deck if your foundation's crumbling?
Right. And that's the foundation of a school right there. Your administration and all your educational buildings and whatnot, and all the stuff that you're trying to build up. That's what this money's supposed to be for, is it not? Or is it supposed to be going? Is it supposed to be going into the coach's pockets, who's making $8 million a year?
Yeah. I think, your top 15 to 20 coaches are probably making over $10 million a year. Head coaches in college football.
Coach Schiano is the highest paid public employee in the state of New Jersey, is he not?
Yeah. And you know what else, Coach? Like, people are not going to like this. When you see payouts like this, $1.3 billion, 0.37, guess what? It's worth it. Like, there's a reason these schools are trying to pony up and do it. But something you sent us, Coach, as we move on here, there's a split coming amongst these levels of college football when you check out these payouts, right?
Yeah, we're moving on too. And like, you got to talk about NIL, right? You got to talk about, you have to talk about the top, I don't know, how many programs do you want to say, Coach? The top 20 programs in college football getting the best athletes? I don't know. Who's in the mix anymore?
I would say there's probably, at least from what I follow. So just, if you guys are interested in college football, another podcast that I enjoy, no shame to shout down me out. It's called the Cover 3 Podcast. And it's really, really good following all sizes of programs, but they kind of think between 17 to 26 programs legitimately recruit and spend on a level where they can tell themselves that they're trying to win a national championship.
Yeah,
Coach, that means 100 aren't, right?
Yeah, like the one logo here, or the one logo here that's up on the screen for you guys who aren't watching along but you're listening, is Luke Combs, country music singer Luke Combs, very successful, a lot of money. He is a proud Appalachian State alumni. He was recently on another show, Bussin' with the Boys. You guys may have heard of it. He was on Bussin' with the Boys, and they asked him, do you donate to NIL? Which he quickly answered, no, I do not.
Yeah, not anymore.
Now,
right?
Coach, why would somebody of that stature that is so proud of their school not donate to the NIL to try and, raise the level of their football program? Probably because he knows it's like throwing a quarter into a wishing well. He's never going to see any return on his money, right?
Yeah.
Because he said there's too much discrepancy, or there's too much shadiness going on in college football right now. He would need contracts in order for him to donate NIL money to the program. One of his clauses to his contract, which I thought was a great idea, is 2-year deals. He wants to ensure that if he's donating however many millions of dollars to the program, that he's not just going to, there's not a recruit that's going to come in and then take the money, and then 6 months later he's going to be out there transferring, and it was all for nothing. So he says 2-year contract agreement, which I love. And then, to top it off, and I'll let you go on to the Troy Aikman logo, or the Troy Aikman display that we're looking at here. Luke Combs finished it with this, and he said, a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I don't think he's out of line here by saying, I would like to see App State go back down to FCS, quote unquote, Division I AA, because at least we would have an opportunity to contend for a championship. He doesn't see that happening with these mid-major schools, and quite frankly, Coach, I don't either. Do you disagree here? Do you disagree here at all?
No, he's not wrong. And you got to think App State, 15 years ago, like the memory that stands out to us is that when they went out into the Big House and upset Michigan week 1, as they were defending FCS national champions, they were a powerhouse. And I'll tell you the flip side. So a good friend of mine that I coached with, Coach Pat Lilly, is in recruiting department at, I always mess up his title, as director of recruiting or player personnel. He's going to kill me. But he's a great guy and he's great at his job. But he had mentioned they are making the jump from FCS to FBS. And amongst that level of program, and they're not the only one, there's a ton of schools that are moving up this offseason as well. But schools are afraid to be left behind because they do see a split coming. And he actually said a lot of the people around their program have actually mentioned things of, wanting more of a challenge because they've won, I don't know, 10 national championships over the last 15 years and 15 overall. They have draft picks in the NFL every year. And like this year, they lost.
Just got another one of the Eagles, right?
Yeah. So they lost unexpectedly. Yeah. They lost unexpectedly in the first round this year. But there's still a program that has aspiration. Their expectation is to win a national championship. So they are making the jump to try to jump into this. But Coach, I want to point out the flip side here. You mentioned about, how many teams are really having a chance to win a national championship. I'm going to say that it's more than there was 10 years ago because you could hoard all of this talent. You could keep a future first-round draft pick as a second or third stringer and convince them to wait his time. And there wasn't somebody, there wasn't greener pastures that they could go to. They could block what schools they went to. They could write a do not apply on a release. They could make, how about Joe Flacco, right? South Jersey legend, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, Joe Flacco. People might not know this. Joe Flacco out of high school, out of Audubon, he went to Pittsburgh, right? And at Pitt, he was in the same class as a guy who made it to the NFL as well, Tyler Palko, and had some local connections. And guess who got the opportunity to play at Pitt first, whose dad coached in Pittsburgh? Not Joe Flacco. So Joe Flacco had to transfer out and actually paid for a year tuition while he couldn't play at the University of Delaware. Like,
dude, I had a no transfer clause in my release. I wasn't allowed to go to an in-conference school.
All the CAA, which was the best school in your conference, best conference.
So so in order for me to play right away and to not have to sit and actually be allowed to transfer, I went Division II. And
so there's definitely some, they're not wrong here, right? They're not wrong.
I disagree with you, Coach, about like you think like there's more. Dude, there's not more. There might be more teams that have the opportunity. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that statement because the teams who are going to win the national title every year are the teams who are going to be bringing in the most money, and those teams aren't changing, man. They're not changing.
Do you think that's any different than the last 50 years of college football?
I would like to think that there was some honor among thieves at some point here, Coach. Listen, do I not think that Saban wasn't paying his players or the boosters were coming up sliding checks into the coat jacket, the jacket pocket? I understand that, but it wasn't out in the friggin' open. I didn't know about it, man. And that's the thing that I think I'm missing about the tradition. And I'm not necessarily a traditionalist, but like the tradition of college football, where it used to be like something fishy's going on there, but we can't prove it. Now the fish is out in the open. We're in the friggin' fish market. They're throwing salmon all over the place, dude. It's kind of crazy. I don't know. I can't deal with it right now. I don't think I like it.
So, Coach, the other image that we have posted here, if you guys are listening, is from an interview probably around last fall with Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman, I would say, Coach, off the top of my head, is UCLA's most famous quarterback alumni. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yes.
Yeah, just a traditional all-time winner, right? Winning 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. I absolutely despise him as a Bird fan, but you got to respect what he was able to do, and he's really good in the booth.
Great commentator.
He's awesome, but and he's honest. And he said honestly here, he said, "I'm done with NIL." Right?
Why?
So he had cut a check for Dante Moore, who's probably the number 1 overall quarterback next year, would have went number 2 overall to the Jets this past year at Oregon. Well, he started off at UCLA, and Troy Aikman definitely had a large part of that contributing to his alma mater and paid some NIL. And he's like, I never got a phone call, a thank you, a handshake, nothing. And I blink, and now that guy plays for a conference rival. So I get
that's crazy.
And I get the donor and booster fatigue. But that's why schools like this. They might complain, players can leave. But you know what they're not complaining about? They're not the ones paying people. So it's more money in their pocket. You know what I mean?
But I'm saying too, like, dude, I'm with Troy though. Like, if I'm donating $2 million to a school, I want to see a piece of the pie. I want to see something. Put my name on something. Like, let me put my initials on the jersey or something. I want to know that I'm getting something back for my investment. And when these guys are and that's like I said, what Luke Combs said, 2-year contracts. I cannot be donating this money and then just to have I turn around and leave in 6 months. So again, it's called booster fatigue, donor fatigue, whatever you want to call it. I'm fatigued talking about it because, like I said, this is minor league NFL here is what it's turning into, and we'll talk about that in a couple slides. But we're moving on here to another topic, and I talked to this is a conversation about Division II program St. Anselm in I forget what state they're in. They're up north.
I think it's Massachusetts, right?
Massachusetts or New Hampshire, one or the other. But I talked to Coach Joe Adam on my former podcast, and he was a great interview, and I learned a lot from him. But St. Anselm is the 4th Division I or Division II program. They announced the other day that they're dropping down to Division III. Okay, it says St. Anselm will move from D2 to D3 in 2027, becoming the 9th member of the new MAC conference. They're the 4th Division I or Division II school to drop to D3 since COVID. Okay, and then I have a video that I'm going to pull up here. It's Coach Adams' response, and this was last week. So he put out a video response to his school being announced that he's dropping down to D3 at the end of the 2027 school year. Take a listen.
Wanted to respond to the news yesterday, and obviously it's a restructuring and a repositioning for our football team, but our team was out this morning at 6:20 a.m. doing what we do because the level doesn't matter to us. We're playing for each other, we're playing for our school, and we're playing for an NE10 championship this fall. That's our mindset, that's what blue collar people do, and that's what we're going to be about. See you this fall. Ball is ball. Go Hawks.
Now, a lot to unpack there. Coach basically just said, hey, doesn't matter what division we're going to play, we're going to go out there and we're going to show up. And that's great for him to say. I can guarantee you that the players probably aren't taking it the same way you would have to imagine, right? It's just like you would see these D1 schools like St. Francis, right? They drop from Division I to Division III, and there's a fire sale, Coach. They're out. The players are out like that. Now, St. Anselm has another year in Division II, and they're moving at the end of they're moving in 2027. So they're playing 2026, and Coach said they're fighting for an NE10 conference title. But I've already seen a couple people on Twitter in the portal. I don't know if it has anything to do if that was premeditated or not. But, Coach, what do you think about the reasoning, and what do you think about Coach's response to, basically to the news?
Yeah, Coach, that's a really good clip that you put in there as well. And, Coach, this is the other side of the coin of what we were just talking about. Like, some schools are going to make these hard decisions of, we are not going to get into this arms race and facility commitment, and it doesn't match the mission and vision of our institution, and they're going to find a different way. And I guess good for them of knowing what is truest to them and guiding their program accordingly. And I'll tell you what else, I admire Coach's outlook, and I'm not surprised that a football coach finds a way through adversity to try to meet the challenge. But Coach, I'm not a body language expert, but did he seem overly enthusiastic and like he believed everything he was just saying?
Like I said, I had him on the podcast a couple months ago, and he was great. But like their whole culture is #BCM, right? Blue collar mentality, and that's how he runs his program. And he was very, Coach is very set in his faith. He's very grounded. I truly think that that's how he's attacking this situation. And listen, he probably had no control over what happened.
He had no say, I'm sure.
So he's going to coach ball, and that's what he does. He help groom young men into being positive members of the community and try and win football games with the people he's got. But now, and I know this from talking to Coach, he did a great job kind of rebuilding that program and getting it to a viable conference championship in Division II level. What's going to happen when they roll over to D3? Is he going to be able to keep those players? And if not, he's basically like starting over, man. So you feel for him. and you feel for the players, but this is the sad reality that we live in. And like you said, I think it's a great point. These schools decide that they're not gonna get into the arms race that is college football, that is the transfer portal, that is the NIL. Good for them, I guess, for standing on business.
Well, Coach, let me ask you this then. Like you're a guy that had gone through transfers while playing in college. I know myself, I was at community college, had to get eligible to transfer in, explored transferring and playing at UD with my brother when he was set to play quarterback. We talked about that a little bit before, but if you're in this role, say me and you are teammates and we're going to be a junior next season and we get this news, or we're going to be a sophomore, are you staying?
I don't know. How much money am I getting? And I don't know if they're fully funded or not. Am I on an athletics? Am I paying $4,000? Listen, because I know guys that have gone to similar Division II programs and paid $4,000 out of pocket after financial aid and athletic funding, and that's not even from a fully funded program. You're talking about $4,000 a year to college. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If these kids are getting any kind of athletic money, dude, it's gone. There's no athletic money in Division III. It's gone, and you know that. Yeah. And like you said, if I'm on scholarship, I can't.
Yeah,
I can't. Depending on my financial situation, but I just don't see it happening.
They did have extremely competitive financial aid packages back based on academics too.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. Great program, great school.
Yeah, so it was great.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And last slide here for our "What's Going On" segment, and then we're going to get into some questions here. We've been rolling. I told you this is a loaded show. I've been having a lot of fun. My blood pressure's a little higher than it usually is, though. I get some sensitive topics here tonight, and we mentioned earlier minor league college football, minor league NFL, whatever it might be. Here's the real impact here. This is a graph that we're looking at on the screen dating back to 2020 or 2017 all the way to 2026. And it shows the NFL draft picks by school division. All right. Power 4 and then non-power FBS. So the blue lines here are dominating, and that's the Power 4 or Power 5 conferences. And then you have your green lines here, which is your FCS, your orange, which you can't see, that's Division 3, your red, which is FBS, non-Power 4, non-Power 5, your purple, which is Division 2, which you see very little of, and then your gray, which is your NAIA, which you probably see none of. Coach, what do you notice about the trend on this graph here?
Coach, it's so funny that you're telling me the different colors on here, because I looked at this on my phone when we sent it back and forth, and I basically saw two colors, right?
Yep.
There's the Power 4 level, which is growing, increasingly dominant of where your NFL draft picks are coming from. Coach, I'm going to look at that most recent portion of the graph all the way to the right. Coach, that looks like it's over 90% is coming from that Power 4 level.
Yes. I believe, Coach, I believe the number was like literally 89% because the stat came out. It was 89% of the 200 and however many draft picks came from a Power 4 conference.
Yeah. So I think back too about how much of the game is impacted. And Coach, you and I talk about this all the time, whether it was us playing the NCAA video game, you're going to pick a MAC school, right? We're going to pick a school that's smaller.
I was Akron. I always started with Akron.
Yeah. And you want to build them up, right? But you think of Akron, think of Khalil Mack. What did he go, number 6 overall in the draft?
Well, it was Coach, Buffalo, but yeah, I mean
Buffalo. So yeah. Khalil Mack isn't staying there, right? Khalil Mack's going to be an All-American as a sophomore. He's going to get about $6 million in the portal, and he's going to go play for Texas or Georgia.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And there was a coach that came out a couple of years ago, and man, I wish I remember who it was, but he said there's no such thing as team culture in college football anymore. He said we are renting players on a year-to-year basis. Your guy's going to play well for you, and then if he plays well enough, he's going to go get a multi-million-dollar pay at some bigger school.
Yeah.
And it's the God's honest truth.
Coach Chute from Nevada, he recruits on a way because they're not a power school, right? But he's a very good coach. And he says, what do you do in this landscape? He's like, I tell you what we'll do. We go to the best players that we can find, and we tell them, you can play here right away. And if you do well, Oregon's going to pay you $1.9 million to leave.
Yep.
You know, like, and
it was the coldest response ever, but it was so true. And he's right. That's a dude there that just like owns it.
Yeah.
You know,
Coach,
he owns the situation.
What I would think I would try to do, like if I were running a school right now, like I always try to think outside the box and outside the margins. I would be doing stuff like your D2 All-American. Like I'm going to use a backyard guy for us, Sharky Burkhart, right? A stud tailback from Kutztown. Coach Taylor and the guys are not going to like hearing this, but if I'm a FCS or FBS non-power school, right, your group of 6 schools, I'm going after him. Right. When he's an All-American at D2, I'm going to get him to move up. Right. Or I'm going to look into when I'm recruiting high school or different players, like, you know, say, Coach Daley, I just saw you was looking at your guys for our spotlight guys. You had 3 running backs that absolutely killed it for you this year. Like let's say one of them's doesn't fit the Division I size parameters.
Easy. All right. Keep my guys on the DL.
But is extremely productive. Well, maybe I'm going to offer him because I know even if he lights it up, a Power 4 school is not going to take a player that isn't an NFL body projection, right? Like right. I would be trying to think outside the margins that way. But you're right, Coach. You're going to get a player. The days of Quyon Mitchell for the Eagles staying at his max school and being a first-round pick, like they seem few and far between.
I mean, this goes back to episode 1, and we're on episode 8 here. That's 2 months. 2 months, by the way, of us doing this show already. It's been friggin' awesome. And again, if you like what we're doing, make sure you go like, subscribe, and share, because I can't tell you how important the subscriptions are when we're on the back end of this thing. So please go subscribe. But 2 months ago, we talked about how hard it is for high school players to get recruited in this landscape, Coach. This is exactly what we're talking about. And the system that you just had in place it's almost like a minor league system. Hey, how about now let's make sure that or let's put in a system here that Division III players have to come from, you know, high school, and they can't take transfers. And then we kind of groom them in Division III, and they're allowed to play as freshmen. And then they'll maybe step up, depending on how good they are. They'll go to a Division II school next year, or maybe 2 years. And then you become a Division II All-American, and then they make the jump to FCS. And then if they do well at the FCS level, by their 4th or 5th year, they'll go make a couple $1 million playing for Oregon. And it's just, we could just do a minor system, Coach. I kind of like that idea. At least we know that our high school players will have a chance to go play somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not crazy in my opinion, man. But
no,
like
and it seems to be kind of working out very close to what you just described anyway.
I know my blood pressure's high, man.
Yeah, sorry, Coach.
This is a good episode, man. This is a really good episode. We got a lot of hot topics to talk about, but thank God that this "What's Going On" segment's over, so I can kind of breathe a little bit. We're going on to our question segment again. As always, man, I just said it, but if you like what we're doing, please go subscribe and share, and just follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, follow us on X, subscribe to us on YouTube. It really means more than you probably know, and we'll get into that, and some really great news coming up next week for sponsorship. And again, the rest of this week, we got our South Jersey Spotlight segment, or our South Jersey Spotlight show coming up on Friday, where we're going to highlight the National and Royal Division. We're almost done with our players to watch, Coach. That went pretty quick. We're going to start moving into our positions to watch, right? Our top 5 at each position. Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, Coach, I started pulling a couple positions already, and it's tough. I don't know if we're going to do by group or limit it to a certain.
No, we got to go group. We got to go group, right? We got to go top. We got to go top 5, group 1 blank, top 5, group 2 blank, top 5 group. What do you think? We'll talk about it. Let's stay on track. Let's stay on track. We got our question segment. We got Mike from Palmyra says, "How do you guys try and keep your players motivated when you're going through a tough season?" This is a good question here too, and it's kind of like overlooked, and I think we've all been through our tough seasons. And I'll kind of turn it over to you first on this one, Coach. How do you maintain some fun, some passion, some energy when you guys are going through it a little bit, man?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to do is to embrace it and kind of face it head on, right? You don't need to be in denial or hide it. I think that you need to find and celebrate the things that are going well. and just continue to promote that, right? If your kids are being great kids, if they're showing great effort, make highlight tapes of their effort to show that team. And you can talk to them about how much more they're improving. I also like to talk to players about going through the challenging time will lead you to winning, even if it's not on Friday night this week, right? The lessons that you might learn starting as a sophomore might be the lesson that you're beating that team the next 2 years, or being a good leader and a teammate and practicing hard as a senior on a team that's struggling. Well, that example might impact the players behind you to help them win when you're no longer there, or project with you as you go on to become a college player or you chase things. I talk about players making their next best play. We talk about, like, we have our kids speak and our coaches speak about what's your best football memory? Tell me your greatest football story. And you talk about that things that make you happy around the game. And that just kind of thinking that way allows you to look past the distraction. We talk about football being the greatest tool for developing life lessons, so that going through a challenging time, if you go through it the right way with the right attitude, will make you better for not just the 4 years of high school, but the next 40 years. So that's something I'm really big on, Coach. And then I'll tell you something else. So my first year when I was a head coach, we had to fix like so many things off the field and absolute chaos, right? And they were learning so much football. So, like, when they had played before, that it was their coach was awesome, but he was like putting them in position and calling things, but they didn't understand. So, like, they were learning more football as we continued to teach, not like a bad way, just like, it was different and they were learning more. But they had seen, like, as the light bulb was starting to get on and get better. Anyway, we got rid of this toxic situation. And that Monday, as we came, we talked to the whole team after the game, and then we talked to the whole team Monday. We had 2 weeks left, and we were like, guys, we just want to have fun, right? So I had players in a huddle. I'm like, tell me what you want to do today, Coach. They said like 7 different things. I jotted it down, and that was the practice plan. Like, we didn't worry about anything else. We did competition drills. We did like the gauntlet with the one-on-one pass rushing. Like, it was just fun. Yeah. And kids left happy. And then we started scoring 35 points a game, and we won our last 2 games against teams that we shouldn't have, including beating our rival for the first time in 10 years. So, like, and that launched us onto the run where we were, we're in the playoffs 3 straight years. We're winning playoff games. We go to a championship. Like, all these great things turned in those worst moments, and kids saw that we were very honest and we were very upfront and we owned where we were. And I used to grab my staff before practice as we were talking. I would say, guys, look around. It will never be this bad or this hard again. Right. Yeah. Coach, a year later, we were playing a team on their senior night to go 4-2. And it was 35-0. We scored on every possession of the game until we ran out the clock. It was 35-0 at halftime. And I grabbed them all. I'm like, hey, guys, remember we used to say it'll never be this bad again? Like, kind of look at us now. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome. So I think, sorry, man, a long answer by me, but I think embracing the challenges, letting guys know that they're still getting better if they're attacking it the right way, and celebrating the things you want to see and promoting everything else that's going on in the program well.
Yeah. And I think I'll just piggyback a couple things off of what you said, because like you said, you did run pretty long there, partner. But it's a great answer. And I like what you said too about keeping practices fun, because that was one of my things, dude. When you're going through it, it is such a grind to go out there every day after school. You've been doing it since August, and now it's the middle of October, and you're 0-7 or whatever you might be. It is so hard as a player to get motivated for that. And sometimes, dude, realistically, sometimes it's hard as a coach. Sometimes it's hard as a coach to motivate and say, what the hell are we going to do today? I got mosquitoes down here in the studio. I don't know how that happened, but what are we going to do today? Make practice fun. Don't drill. We're not doing the same friggin' 25 minutes at Indy and then an hour, 45 minutes a team again today. Like you said, what do you guys want to do today? What can we work on to get better? Or what can we work on just to have fun and get through the season? And good.
Something else I used to try to do was double down in investing in the kids. Yo, who's your favorite teacher? What's your favorite class today? What's the best teacher you ever had in the school? Who's your favorite coach here? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Who's your best teammate that you ever played with? And then all of a sudden, like, you're taking an interest in you do that stuff anyway, but if you really double down on it when you're going through those tough times, I think it makes things great. Like this year, coach, our team at EHT, so we had 9 varsity starters coming back that weren't with us this season, right? A couple kids moved, really good players moved across the country. We had multiple injuries, like where guys weren't cleared going into their next season. So we had 9 starters. All of a sudden we had 1 returning. And like we were just not physically prepared as a roster. We were extremely young, extremely inexperienced, and we weren't ready for varsity football. And it showed on the field.
Yeah.
Our kids, coach, we didn't have a single problem kid on the entire it was the most enjoyable, challenging season. But also all these kids believed, and they kept showing up to practice and working really hard. And coach, now they're set up, right? There's a handful of guys we had. They're going to go play in college because of how they conducted themselves and how well they worked. Our younger guys are returning with an entire year of experience that their peers on all these other teams do not collectively have. So like it can help get you better and just being relentlessly positive.
Yeah. I just think that one of the toughest things too is as a new coach, trying to navigate a first year coach at a program, and I've done it twice now, and I took over programs that weren't in the best of shape. It's really tough to get through that first season of not winning and just convincing the kids, hey, like you said,
this is worthwhile.
It can't get it's going to be worthwhile. It's not going to get any worse than this. And like we had wins, I think, my first year, and then we went 5-5 my second year. And then last year we went 7-3. We won 7 games that are only the 8th time in school history. So,
go Gators!
It's been awesome. It's been awesome to see, and you kind of build, buy into that process. And
like Coach, we call that a year 0.
Yeah,
right. When you come in behind the 8 ball and there's a lot to fix, it's a year 0.
You have to, man. You have to. Last question here. I know we're running long a little bit, but the last question comes from Gary from Voorhees. Do you think that all the transfers that are happening are ultimately good or bad for South Jersey football as a whole? What a loaded question, Gary. I don't know if I'm allowed to answer this, man, to be honest with you.
So I do think so you guys understand, and Coach and I have said this, right, Coach Daley, like we're not here ever to certainly we want to promote programs and players and coaches and the great things. I think this is something that's always going on. I'd say it's probably more talked about now because everybody in football wants to mimic what's going on at the higher levels. And this is something that's running rampant in college football right now. I know this, Coach. So when I moved to New Jersey, the program was in rough shape where I went. And going into my senior year, I was this close to transferring to Holy Cross. And I actually was going to summer workouts and camp there at 2 programs, and the school went on strike. That's like the only thing that kept me out from going, or I would have been playing there. And I was at a program that at the time, the community, it didn't matter. They didn't care. And in my family and household, athletics was important for on and off the field. So much so that my brother and sister went to a private school and had the experience that my parents envisioned. So I get wanting great experiences for your kid. And if the school district isn't aligned with what you think is important, I understand getting someone somewhere else. People are going to hate me for that. But I think there's just a lot of crazy things that happen sometimes. Here's the biggest misconception. All right. Coach Move used to coach in college, and I know a ton of college coaches, and I'm friends with a lot of them. And if you come play for me, I'll make you go D1. We've said it enough, Coach. Sorry to beat a dead horse. Mom and dad made you D1, right? Your genetics, the puberty lottery made you D1. And you can ruin your academics, your injury, if you get in trouble, right? Or if you don't perform on the field, you can mess up being D1, but you are never going to be D1 by outworking. Like if I'm a lineman and I'm 6'2", 255, I'm not going D1, right? It's not happening, right? Like, so I just like, that's a big misconception, thinking that you're going to get a better look at a program. You're going to get a better look by doing well. by dominating your competition, by being the requisite skill set and size and speed. Coach, you want to jump in too? I don't want to.
Yeah, man. I'm going to say a couple things, and I'm going to kind of thank Gary for the question, and I'm going to stray away from it here. I will say two things though. The jersey does not change the player. Okay, we've said that numerous times on this podcast. If you're D1, you're born with it. That's the realistic truth.
Yep.
Okay. Second of all, is with regarding all the transfers. The only thing that I see is like, dude, if you're bouncing around from school to school to school, and we talked about it before, where's your legacy, man? Well, legacy is all you got to leave, and you talk about it from a college perspective. It's like, dude, you don't have anywhere where you call home. Nobody's ever gonna remember anybody or talk about anybody who was somewhere for 1 year, whereas you could go through the record books of South Jersey and be like, oh, Ron Dane or Kevin Harvey or whatever it might be. And dude, that's where they were. And that people know them and they're synonymous and they're legends, dude. They're legends. Is anybody going to remember somebody who went somewhere that had no affiliation with the town, that played at a school for a year and had a good season? I think probably not, man. Me, I'm all about leaving my legacy, and I want to be remembered for that. So I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get too deep into the topic. It is a hot topic, but
I think you're seeing it going on right now too. And like I said, we understand things. So the state, it used to be, Coach. So if people aren't familiar, in New Jersey, you had to have a bona fide change of address. And dude, it. Like I've coached at places. I've played with guys where cops come and check to make sure
truancy officers.
That you're there.
Athletic advantage used to be a thing.
Yes. So if you're transferring specifically for an athletic advantage, they would check a box. And if you were found, guilty, for lack of a better word, you had to sit a month, right? It was 4 games. This whole free transfer thing, let's call it what it is. It happened because the state got tired of having to go to court when people would sue for, yes, my address is bona fide or not. And they got tired of it. So now there's this, whatever you want to call it in high schools. And now, it's certainly worse. And they won't, how it's bad or going on a lot, if the state refuses to publish the numbers of how many people are actually transferring.
Yeah, I would like to see the numbers, but listen, like I said, I try and navigate, tiptoe around that. I think I did a pretty good job tiptoeing around that topic, but for
Coach
sure.
My AD, Mike Vicente, all the time, he would be like, hey, we just had a kid transfer. It was usually somebody moved in. He would be like, hey, a kid just emailed, he's transferring in. And I'd be like, is he 6'5", 295 from Texas? And he's like, no. I'm like, all right. Like, that was my only question.
Yeah, some reason I, never get any of those transfers, but I'll take good quality people because that's the kids I love to coach. We're moving on to the weekly awards on the Daley Move Podcast. And, Coach, I don't know of any other award that I want to be recognized by right now than probably the hottest podcast definitely in South Jersey, but maybe in the entire state. So if you're on the Daley Move podcast weekly awards, or you're on the Players to Watch or something like that, you could take it to the bank because this thing is as good as gold, man. We're diving in. Coach of the Week. I found one, and I went across I had to scour the country, Coach. I said I want to expand our horizons a little bit. I want to go to a different state. I want to go to a different sport, go to a different gender. And I found this coach here, Melissa Frost from UIndy softball. All right. Melissa Frost is in her 22nd year as the UIndy head coach in 2026. It's amazing. Talk about staying in one spot. 22nd year. She recently surpassed 900 career wins at that school.
Wow.
They've had 17 consecutive NCAA tournament berths. And this year, the team is currently 53-3. How amazing is that, dude? 53-3. You played friggin' 56 games and you only lost 3 of them. This UIndy team's a Division II softball team. They're a force to be reckoned with. And I saw the numbers, man, and they just popped off the chart. 53-3, and then to see her credentials and her accolades over her career at UIndy is just really impressive. And want to shine some light on that program. So congratulations to the Daley Move Podcast Coach of the Week, Melissa Frost from UIndy softball, as they get ready for postseason play, trying to improve on that 53-3 record.
That's moving awesome, on Coach. Here. Good choice.
Player of the Week.
I always think too, like, I would love to hear coaches like first team meeting. You know what I mean? When you hear that level of dominance, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Player of the week, coach, you can't go wrong with this one. I know they dropped the next series opener last night against the Knicks, but Joel Embiid, first of all, I don't know how this guy's playing. I had to get my appendix out, emergency surgery, and I can't imagine playing an NBA game 2 weeks later, right? 34 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 block in Game 7 win over the Celtics. Coach, Boston was 32-0 all time when leading a series 3-1. The Sixers were 0-18 all time when trailing a series 1-3. The Sixers battle back, force a Game 7 in Boston, beat Boston in Boston. It was awesome. So huge fan of Joel Embiid. I think he's an incredible player. You got to feel for him with, it seems like at the most important times all the time, he has horrific injuries and continues to play through them, throws his body all over the court. Deservingly so here in this instance of winning that Game 7, Joel Embiid. Player.
Yeah, they got a lot of work to do, Coach. They got a tough Knicks team that they're going against, and both Philly sports teams that are in the playoffs right now got an uphill battle. Our Fly guys are currently down 2-0 to Carolina too. So best of luck to the Sixers, best of luck to the Flyers, and best of luck to all of our Philly sports teams out there. Coach, it's been an hour, man. It went pretty quick. I knew we had a loaded show, but as always, again, if you like what we're doing, make sure you like, subscribe, share. It means a lot to us. It goes further than you guys realized on the back end of things when it comes to trying to secure some things on our end too. We appreciate everybody listening. Make sure that you tune in Thursday. We got a No Huddle episode coming up, a lot of fun topics, and then again on Friday we have our South Jersey Spotlight edition. We're going to be talking about the national division and the Royal division. Coach, as Daryl Price says here, you got your own slogan here. We got to get some merch made up for that. Take us home, baby.
Yep, Coach Price, great coach, former teammate, great man. He said it for us. Find a way to win.
Find a way to win. Thanks for joining us here on the Daley Move Podcast. We'll see you guys Thursday for our No Huddle edition. Talk to you guys soon.